Hello, hello. Welcome to She's Connected, where you get to connect your faith and your family. Today's High Five Friday Live is in our She's Connected series titled Document and Celebrate with Legacy, which is pillar number 3 of She's Connected. So it works out perfectly. I want to start by asking, have you ever felt like life is just flying by way too fast? And you don't want to forget the little giggles, the curly hair, the bedtime prayers, the freckles on their nose, all the milestones. What if I told you that capturing those moments isn't just about memories? It's about faith, family, and legacy. And today we are going to talk about why documenting life and celebrating God's goodness in the everyday is more than practical and sentimental. It's spiritual. And sometimes we are so busy surviving that we forget to record the goodness. Let's just high five ourselves. Give yourself a high five because you made it to Friday. And if you're watching this on the replay on some other day, you can still high five yourself because you made it here. Now, tell me about yourself in the comments. Where are you watching? And what's your favorite fall harvest item? Now, I really like cider, and I'm Cherry, mom of 10, living in Springfield, Missouri, inspiring moms like you to live a life connected to God. Why don't you take a deep breath with me and connect to yourself and be present as we learn how to connect to our families today. Documenting is about keeping God right in the center of your family's story. Now, we used to live in Michigan, and my in laws have an apple tree in their front yard. We would harvest the apples in September. Everybody would go to their house, and we'd have all the ladders, and people would be climbing up and putting apples in buckets and delivering them all to one area. It was so fun. It was a really awesome September thing to do with our family. And then they would take those apples to a cider mill to get them turned into cider every year. And they would give us a few gallons because we came and helped, right? It was so special and tasty. There's something about using your own products, your own items, or having a part in the process that makes it taste even better. And we moved to Missouri over 6 years ago now, and I really miss that fresh apple cider. Even though it's not like our own milled cider, I still get excited every fall when the cider shows up on the shelves in the store and I actually like get a gallon or two every grocery order to go in the freezer. And I have a little stockpile for myself because I enjoy it past the season. And then I can continue to have apple cider if nobody takes my jugs. And I can have it in the new year instead of just in fall. But I never stockpile enough to last like till the next season. So, of course, every fall I'm excited about apple cider being on the shelves, even though the price tag this year is way too high or higher than I would like. I'm still going to buy me some apple cider. Put apple in the comments because God is with you every season. And I think my live is working. Oh, Tina's here in the comments. Hello from Michigan. Those cider memories always remind me how meaningful it is to like pause and savor what matters, to hold on to the sweetness of a season before it slips away. And in a way, that's what documenting and celebrating life does for your heart, too. It helps you to slow down and slow down long enough to like notice God's goodness around you and then to like bottle up the blessings that he's pouring out to you and to your family, and then you get to share them with people that you love. Why don't you put story in the comments? because documenting and celebrating your family's story actually helps you be aware, prioritize what matters or what's important, to connect, grow, and pass on your faith. So that's why we're going to put story in the comments. Just got to put my little like sentence over there. And I have 3 kids in high school this year. And it's the end of the first quarter marking period. They actually don't have school today. And we had donuts and apple cider for breakfast. It was special. It's during the week. Daddy is still at work and the high schoolers are home. So we got to celebrate a little bit this morning with apple cider and donuts for breakfast, which we don't usually do. Oh, hello, Bev. Thanks for stopping in live. A long time ago, I read the book, The Power of Moments by Chip Ingram. No, not Ingram. Sorry. Chip Heath. And it made such a profound impact on me and the way that I approach documenting and celebrating our family. The book explains that certain moments, either big or small, they can shape our lives when they're marked with purpose and meaning. These are the moments that stand out, that connect us and define our memories. And when you intentionally create or highlight meaningful moments in your home through small celebrations or traditions, or even just writing things down, you give your family something to hold on to. And it helps your children feel seen and valued and loved. And it turns ordinary days into lasting memories of God's goodness. Why don't you put moments in the comments? Because your family moments matter big time. They matter to you and they matter to your kids. Now, that book really made me look at our ordinary family moments in a whole new way. It reminded me that um, sometimes it takes a little effort to make something extraordinary, but it's always worth it. One of my favorite examples of that from this last year is last year we did school. Our school was a whole space themed year, and every subject was infused with space science and the wonder of God's universe. So, to wrap it all up, I created a blast off party this summer, and it celebrated the end of the year, which we don't usually do in our family. We kind of just keep going around because learning is supposed to be lifelong. But I decided to take a pause this year and have this party. And it also launched us into the new year with excitement. And it was such a fun way to mark the moment and remind my kids that learning and life are worth celebrating. And we had a lot of fun. And it also included the high schoolers who were not here during our homeschool, but they loved all the projects I had in this blast off party. Now, recording God's faithfulness, it turns fleeting moments into lasting reminders that He has been and always will be present and good in every season of our lives. In Deuteronomy 6:6-9, it says, parents are told to teach God's commands to their children, to talk about them at home and on the road, and even write them on their doorposts. And in Psalm 78, verses 4-7, it says that we will not hide them from our children, but tell the next generation the glorious deeds of the Lord. When you write down family stories, family prayers, even answered prayers, you're doing exactly that. So why don't you put C in the comments? Because you're helping your kids see God's hand in everyday life when you document it. I just got to put that in my comments. Thank Thank you so much for being here in the comments, guys. I don't always see them. I do see a few scattered in there. I love those moments matters. Moments matter. You know, photography, it plays such a big role in documenting your family's story. I have some very old photos from my great great grandparents that I don't really know the stories about, but I just love those photos. And they mean something to me because they were my grandma's. And that's my family. We all carry cameras on our phones, in our pockets with us almost all the time. So you can capture moments anytime, anywhere. And I always say, if you didn't take a photo, it didn't happen, to like all my kids and when we're doing things. Just today, Ruthie and I, we sang out loud, as loud as we could, the Star Spangled Banner. And when we were done, I was like, we need a photo of this so we can remember what we just did, because it was silly and goofy and we were laughing and we were having so much fun. And it didn't matter if we hit a key or anything. We were just having fun. But I had to take a snapshot of it after, because I was like, I need to remember what we just did here. Anytime one of my kids gets excited about something, my first response is, let's take a picture. Some of them laugh and roll their eyes, but others have totally embraced it. And they'll even grab the camera before I think of it. Those photos become little visual reminders of God's goodness in our life, the joy that we've shared, and the moments that make our family ours. Put photo in the comments, because photos help us remember not just what happened, but how we felt in that moment. And that's such a beautiful way to see God's faithfulness over time. When you take photos of your family's story, you're not just capturing images, you're capturing evidence of God's goodness woven through your everyday life. And every snapshot becomes a memory anchor, a moment you can look back on and say, God was here. Whether it's a messy kitchen, a silly face, or a quiet moment of prayer, photos remind your family of the love and the growth and the grace that fill your home. So, here are 5 benefits of snapping photos as a way of documenting your family's story. It preserves memories. Photos freeze moments in time. Photos capture what you might otherwise forget, allowing you to revisit them with gratitude. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in years. I was just going to put preserved memories in the comments, but I don't know. I'll just do it. Capturing photos strengthens connection. Looking through pictures, oh my, when you do it together, it builds closeness and shared joy within your family. And I have a testimony to that, because almost every time I get out photos, we have that exact thing: closeness, joy, laughter. It inspires gratitude. Photos help you recognize God's hand in both your ordinary and extraordinary moments, and you become grateful. It builds legacy. Each image becomes part of your family's faith story, and that gets passed down for future generations. There are photos that my parents took of me that I've shared with my kids, and it just builds a legacy. It encourages reflection. So when you are looking back, you can tell like what was happening in your life at that time. You revisit those stories. You start to think about where you've come from and how far you've come, if that makes any sense. Oh, you can see how far God has brought your family, and it can renew your hope for what's in the future. So maybe you like to journal. Maybe you have a bulletin board. Maybe you can print photo books. Um, those collected stories become your family's living testimony. And I have a couple books here that I wanted to tell you about. Um, we have month books from all the whole family is in this book, and then I have a tiny one dedicated to Ireland, because a lot of the younger kids, they'll say, Cole, especially, I have heard him say this, I'm not in that photo, I'm not in that photo. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to print these for Ireland. She's not going to say that she's not in any photos. Because here she is. These are chat books, by the way. And I am not sponsored by them or anything. And they're actually not my most favorite, but it is a subscription that I have photo credits for each book each month, and it just gives me a very quick, easy way to get my photos in print form so we can have them to look at later. And it's been amazing for my family. And right now, they actually have a sale for new people. You can get 12 books for $12 or something like that, which is crazy because I think like every book is like $12 or something on there now. Prices just keep going up on everything. And I know that is like it might change after the year and it'll be more expensive, but you can always cancel, although sometimes it's tricky to cancel those kind of things. Again, I'm not a sponsor of them. I am not like promoting them, but that is something I use. And if you're interested, you can put chat books in the comments or something and I can get you the information on it. When you record his faithfulness, you're saying, look, kids, God was here and he's still here. So why don't you put last in the comments? Because it leaves a lasting spiritual legacy when you keep revisiting where God has been in your family and you just keep seeing him more and more. Creating a spiritual legacy means intentionally living and sharing your faith in a way that leaves that lasting imprint of God's truth, love, and faithfulness on the generations that follow. My grandkids, your grandkids. I know some of you already have grandkids, and I know that Bev is expecting a great grandkid. So that's amazing. You got generations here. Put seed in the comments because every story you document becomes a seed of faith for your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. Proverbs 22:6 reminds us, train up a child in the way he should go. That training isn't just what you say. It's what you show. It's what you write. It's what you remember. And Habakkuk 2 verse 2 says, write down what I show you. Write it clearly on stone tablets so whoever reads it can run to tell others. So we are capturing God's goodness in our everyday. We're sharing it with our kids, and then they are sharing it with other people. When you take time to write, photograph, or record, you are leaving behind these spiritual breadcrumbs for your children to follow. Maybe you have a prayer journal or a family scrapbook, or maybe you tuck like sticky notes in your Bible. These become legacy markers. And right now I'm doing this Bible recap study. And we have a study guide that has questions for every section of the scripture. In my book, I've decided to journal pictures in the margins, and I just love how it's turning out. And this is my breadcrumbs for my kids. They get to see it. I love when I'm working on it and Cole comes up to me and he starts pointing out all the pictures and we get to talk about God. It's just so awesome. Why don't you put bread in the comments? Because these breadcrumbs remind your children, Mom trusted God and I can too. And that's what we want to pass on to our kids. Remember, your presence is more powerful than any perfect thing you could do or say. Your voice and your story, they matter more. One of my favorite things to do as a family, like I said, is pull out those old family albums and scroll through pictures. The moment we start doing that, the excitement just overflows. The kids point and they laugh and they start retelling stories, usually all at once. So it gets loud and a little chaotic, but my heart can't help but smile. Those moments remind me why documenting and remembering are so important. Photos can spark gratitude and that laughter, but even more, it helps you remember what God has done. Put remember in the comments because this is exactly why God tells us to remember and to share his faithfulness with others. Remembering leads to rejoicing, and rejoicing, that gives him glory. First Chronicles 16:12 says, "Remember the wondrous works that he has done, his miracles and the judgments he uttered." And honestly, that joy that you feel as you remember, the laughing, the retelling stories, and the thanking God for his goodness, that is a form of celebration. And when you pause to remember, you're not just looking back, you're rejoicing in what God has done. Celebration is really the natural overflow of remembrance. It's how you honor God for his faithfulness and keep joy alive in your home. Celebration is a spiritual practice because it helps you pause and recognize God's goodness and respond with joy and gratitude, turning ordinary moments into acts of worship. Deuteronomy 12:7 says, "Celebrate the blessings of the Lord in your homes." If that's not enough to get you to celebrate, I don't know what would be enough. Psalm 118:24 reminds us, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And Nehemiah 8:10, we're told, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." We all want more joy and more strength. Why don't you put joy in the comments? Because God commands his people to celebrate, and joy keeps your heart strong. Celebrating small wins, finishing a homeschool unit, a child's progress on anything, or a prayer answered. It refreshes your heart. It reminds you that life isn't just about chores and schedules and getting the stuff done. It's about gratitude, thankfulness, connection, and joy. Celebration invites that joy into your home, and it teaches your children that God's blessings are worth rejoicing over, even in the mess and chaos, especially in the mess and chaos. There's reason to celebrate. God, your family will remember the laughter and the joy and the love. And when you share and preserve your family's experiences or traditions and faith, you give your children a sense of identity. You connect with them and you reassure them that they are loved and part of something bigger than themselves. That's belonging through story. Put belonging in the comments because documenting and celebrating, it builds belonging. And when you record your family's story, you're giving your children roots. Psalm 127 verses 3 through 5 says, "Children are a heritage from the Lord." And Proverbs 17:6 says, "Grandchildren are the crown of the aged." Your stories actually tie generations together. So don't stop documenting them. Do it even more. When your kids hear or see those stories, they know I belong here. I'm part of something. God is with our family and me. So at dinner, you can tell a story from when your older child was little, or share how they were born, or share how God helped your family through a tough season, or share. That's how faith roots deepen. And if you're not sharing these stories with your kids, you can continue to share them with your spouse or with your pet or with anyone who will listen, your coworkers, even, if you want to share your stories with them. Each story you preserve whispers to the people you're telling it to, you are known, you are loved, you belong to this family and to God's story. Every hug, every laugh, every story is a treasured part of your family's spiritual heritage. Now, I have to say this because I hear it from moms all the time. I don't like how I look. The house is too messy. We'll take photos when things feel more put together. And I've said those things too. I get it. But we've got to let go of that. Your kids don't care about your baby weight, your wrinkles, your white hairs. They love you, and they'll remember your laughter and your hugs, your bedtime prayers, your stories, your goofy dance in the kitchen, not your size or your skin. They might notice your white hair, or they might notice your chin hair, and they'll say it that day, but that's not something that's going to be lasting. Your presence is what they'll cherish. So don't stay out of the frame because of fear or self criticism. Be part of your family's story because you're the heart of it. I know I'm always behind the frame, behind the camera, and I intentionally set up the camera to take photos with me in it. I intentionally ask other people to take photos of me with my family. Your family's story is worth remembering, and so are you. So here's what I want you to hold tight to today. Number one, documenting preserves God's faithfulness for your family. And number two, celebrating strengthens hearts and bonds. I'm just trying to put these in the comments too. Number three, belonging grows when you share your stories. These are all things we talked about today. We're learning a lot. Number four, perfection is never required. Your presence is what matters the most. So be present. Every story you record and every small victory you celebrate, it all becomes a seed of faith that will grow long after the moment passes. And your home doesn't need to be perfect. Your story doesn't need to be all polished, even though before I came live, I made my bed behind me. But your love and your faith, those are worth documenting. So I have a call to action for you. This week, I challenge you to do one small thing. Write a story, take a photo, or celebrate a tiny victory. Then share it. Share it with your family or post it in our group so we can celebrate together. Let's become moms who document God's faithfulness and celebrate His goodness in every season. Because this is what it means to be connected and growing in Him. Remember, you are enough, your story matters, and God is at the center of every moment you capture. So, brave mom, I want to remind you of the incredible gift that you are in your children's lives. Motherhood is not about keeping up with appearances. It's about that presence, love, and faithfulness. God created you with everything that your family needs to thrive, and He delights in you just as you are. Documenting your family story isn't just a hobby or a memory keeping activity, it's actually a spiritual rhythm. And sometimes my kids get all goofy and they like make fun of me for taking video of them while they're doing stuff. And you know what? I don't care because it is a spiritual rhythm for me. And when you write down prayers, you take those photos, or you capture small moments, you're teaching your kids to notice God's hand in every season. You're showing them that life is worth remembering because God is at the center of it all. So, all those memories that you're making, every milestone that you celebrate is more than a memory, it's a seed of faith. Documenting life, it's practical and it's powerful. It's a way for you to train your kids in God's ways. You're leaving behind a spiritual legacy that will bless your children and grandchildren for years to come. Celebration, woo! It is a spiritual practice. And when you pause and rejoice over some small victory or answered prayer or even the simple gift of today, you are practicing gratitude. You're strengthening your heart and you're modeling faith for your children. And right now is the season of gratitude and thankfulness, something that we should be doing all year long. But even the world takes this time of the year and talks about thankfulness and gratitude right now. So let's jump in. We have a great gratitude email series with 3 to 4 months of scattered emails to remind you to be grateful. And if you put great in the comments, I will send you the link to sign up. And we made it to our heart check moment here. And I have 3 questions for you that just get you thinking about our live today, what we talked about, and where you're at in your family. What recent moment in your home revealed God's goodness? And how could you document it so your family remembers His faithfulness? Think about that one for a little bit. Ooh, I see Bev's heart check moment or heart check in the comments. I gotta hit love on it. Okay, next question is how can you bring more intentional celebration into your home? Because we can't forget about the celebrating part. It matters. And you can celebrate the littlest thing. The next question is what story, photo, or memory do you want your children to hold on to as part of your family's spiritual legacy? And what can you do today to begin capturing it? That can be kind of a heavy one, but think about it. Actually, turn it into something that you're going to do because we can talk all day about documenting and celebrating. And then tomorrow we can forget everything we learned. But I want you to do something. I want you to take some action. Think about these questions with you and God and decide on something that you're going to do. Ooh, Tina put great in the comments. So she's going to be signing up for that great gratitude series and she's going to be remembering to be thankful. Your celebrations, whether big or small, they honor God and they invite joy into your home. Remembering God's faithfulness is at the heart of motherhood. And when you look back at photos, journals, or even tell stories aloud, you are reminded of how God has guided you, how God has provided for you and your family, and how God is sustaining your family today. And maybe it could get you excited about the future and what He has for you when those grandkids come or when those great grandkids come. Your family story is also God's story, and teaching your children to remember Him shapes their faith forever. And they even grab on to some of your traditions and the things that you did to document, and they do it in their family. Belonging through story gives your children those roots. And when they see themselves in the context of your family's journey and God's faithfulness, they feel secure, they feel loved, and part of something bigger than themselves. This is a way of teaching your kids that they belong. And then they don't search for it somewhere else. We were created to belong with God. And when we don't feel like we belong anywhere, we start to search other areas, and you could get into some trouble that way. And we don't want them to seek out trouble. We want them to seek out God. And so we want to tell them they belong right here in our family and they fit, even if they feel like outsiders or like they're adopted, or all the things that kids have said, will say, did say. It's okay. Give them this sense of belonging, and I'm sure you can get through it a little bit easier. Your stories, they actually affirm that they belong to God's story as much as they belong to your family. And that is a gift beyond measure and will make a big difference. So, thank you so much for being here and She's Connected with me, and especially those moms, Tina and Bev, with me in the comments. I love when you guys show up there. I love when Facebook shows them to me. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Last week I missed some comments. Oh, Nancy. Hi, Nancy. She says hello. I hope to see you next week at 3 p.m. Central. That's 4 p.m. Eastern for another live. The moments your kids will treasure most are the ones where you were fully present. So get in there and laugh, get in there and hug, encourage, celebrate, and point them to God. As you document and celebrate your family, you're also nurturing your own heart. Journaling, photographing, or remembering God's faithfulness, it allows you to see the patterns of His provision and grace. It strengthens you spiritually, emotionally, and relationally, reminding you that motherhood is not a solo journey because God is with you every step of the way. And just saying that reminded me of some pretty low moments in my motherhood where I didn't feel the greatest and I wasn't there spiritually, emotionally, relationally. And the thing that got me out of that was actually documenting and celebrating my family. I am a photographer and I like to take photos, and I was even taking photos throughout that whole time. But when I created a photo project for my family, it got me out of some grief and helped process it. And it just makes a huge difference. So let's document and celebrate. Let today be a reminder. Pause, record, and celebrate. Why don't you put party in the comments? Because it's fun to document and celebrate. And sometimes I get very picky about it and I can get very like, it's such a job and a chore to organize your photos after and that kind of thing. But I got this is just as much a reminder to me as it is to you, that documenting and celebrating your family story can be fun. So look for the ordinary moments where God is at work and give them meaning. Take the photos, write the stories, tell the tales, and rejoice. Your family will look back and see not just the memories, but the faith and the love and the presence that you poured into every moment. And this is where your faith and your family connect. And I leave you today with these thoughts. God delights in you as a mom, a meaningful, unique mother. He sees your efforts, your sacrifices, your laughter, and even your tears. And as you document and celebrate and remember, you're living out a God first motherhood that glorifies Him and nurtures your children's hearts. So keep showing up, because the way you love, the way you notice, and the way you celebrate is shaping a generation that knows God's faithfulness. And that is a legacy worth leaving. So, see you next week, and happy connecting, everyone.